Welcome back, Southwest Florida. I want to give a big shout out to my man from Haiti and his lovely companion who have come out to help us. What's y'all names? Georges. The Georges here from Fort Lauderdale on this cruise. What cruise is that, Lee? Where we're on the Black and Gold cruise. I think it's Into the Darkness, put on by Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity here in Fort Myers. We sailed the Gulf of Mexico through and went up the Caloosahatchee River, and it's a dinner cruise, and it's a nice crowd here. Just a spectacular event. Big shout out to Southwest Florida Alphas. We have right here the granddaddy of them all, 06, one of the founders of the local chapter, Lovie Wells, a renowned educator and government worker here in Southwest Florida. Lovie, welcome to Lee Pitts Live, man.
Thank you, Lee.
How you like that, renowned educator?
Hey, I appreciate it. You always have good things to say about me.
You know, Lovie, what happened is you set the bar in terms of young black professionals in Southwest Florida. You were always in high positions. You were always looking out for the help other people up to the next level. And that takes me to the fact that you told me you were one of the founders of this chapter.
That's true, Lee. I founded, I and 6 other brothers founded Zion Macron Lambda back, I think it's around 1987.
Really?
Mainly because, I pledged undergrad, but when I returned home to Fort Myers, Florida, I was somewhat at a loss, disappointed with the fact that Alpha did not have a physical presence in this area.
Really? Okay, and you just got to work on that.
Got to work on it. Another brother named J.C. Rawls, who was state director at that time, was very instrumental in us doing what was necessary to establish a local graduate chapter in Southwest Florida.
So now when you sit back and look at this cruise that we've gone on tonight, Dr. King's celebration is coming up next month, and Apple's at the forefront of that as well. When you look at all these things that are taking place at the time when you guys were sitting down doing it, could you envision that you would grow like this?
No, no, I couldn't back then. But I'm very proud that we have a number of guys who have come along, and this area has grown tremendously, and Alpha has stamped its presence here. And as a result, you look back and you're really proud and thankful for participating and starting something very good in this community.
The goals, your goals are pretty much the same each year, and what's your basic?
They're pretty
goal?
Much the same, because basically Alpha, especially the graduate level, is to try to improve the community, provide positive role models for young men, and to try to address any of the needs of the community that you can with respect to either your individual professionality or lending your expertise to resolving problems in your community.
Are you the last founder that's still in the chapter now, or is anybody still here?
No, there are, I think, 4 remaining founders. There were 7, but now there are 4 of us, and there are 2 other founders that live in the area.
That's got to be pretty cool, though, to be a founder.
Well, it is.
I mean, it kind of, when you're in the meetings and everything, you're the founder, man. That's cool, huh?
Yeah, because when I go back to meetings, because I'm not as active as I used to be, but when I go back to meetings, I'm always treated with the respect for starting this activity in this area, and the brothers are trained right. They respect their elders, and I appreciate that.
Dr. Martin Luther King, one of your more famous members of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. When you think of Dr. King, what comes to mind?
A man who devoted his life to uplifting his community and tearing down barriers that segregation placed upon our people. Dr. King is a legend in his time. My college that I graduated from, he was a speaker there, not when I graduated, but when my dad did. And he put his stamp on all Black Americans aspiring to be as good as they could be, and taking that improved training and stuff, and having a commitment to coming back to bettering their community.
Now, if Dr. King was looking at your fraternity right now, what is doing in society, would he be pleased? What would he like? What would his thoughts about A5A?
I think his thoughts would be he would be pleased that there are brothers who are willing to step forward and speak the voice of the community. I think he would also challenge us to do even better, because from Dr. King's perspective, he was only here for a short period of time.
Very short. He lived to 39 years old. It seemed like longer, doesn't it?
It seems like longer,
Amazing.
but he was only a very short period of time. But he was always dedicated to not only improving himself, but also demanding others to improve themselves. So I think he would be pleased with some things. Of course, other things he probably wouldn't be too pleased with. And I go back to the voting appearance of our people and participating in elections. There is substantial improvement that needs to take place there.
A lot of apathy there, huh?
There's a lot of apathy, and there's a lot of thought process there where people think, well, they're going to do whatever they want to do, when in fact that's not true. The fact of the matter is, history is replete with examples of where one person swayed an entire movement. And Dr. King, he was one person. He took the civil rights movement and gave it a thrust that nobody thought before, because you have to understand, Dr. King grew up in de facto and de jure segregation. And when he left here...
What's de jure?
De jure means it was legal.
Okay.
De facto means it's a fact.
All right.
To put it simple.
Okay.
I don't want to get too technical.
Civics teacher here. Hey, did Dr. King name get mentioned in the civics books?
Yes, he does.
Really?
The biggest criticism we have about civics books is that they don't mention other Dr. Kings, because Dr. King didn't do it alone either. When you start thinking about SCLC and some of the other organizations at that time,
Corps and all of them.
Yeah, all of them had the same goal. They may have had a different method.
Even the Black Panthers.
Even the Black
After
Panthers.
the fact.
Exactly right. Well, Black Panthers made it clear that, look, if you hit me, I'm going to hit you back. Okay.
Now, when the Black Panthers were doing their thing, I remember my sister was in high school, I was a little boy, in the early 60s, and they were wearing their leather jackets and all of that. And we had a Black Panther chapter in Birmingham.
Sure.
And I just saw it from being a kid, but you might have seen it a little bit more.
I saw it a little closer.
Right.
Okay. Matter of fact, I read Soul Dad Brothers.
I got you.
And that was during my time when you expose yourself to a lot of things.
Right.
But some of the things the Black Panthers were dealing with out in Los Angeles and California was the fact
San Francisco.
yes, it was a new frontier, but the frontier wasn't delivering on everybody. And they really came across with a philosophy of do things for yourselves. And I think it was mistook by some folks because they felt threatened. Because the black communities then were beginning to say, well, look, if we can't expect the establishment to do it, we'll do it ourselves. And if the establishment challenges what we're trying to do, we will meet that with resistance.
The moving away from the Panthers, because I'll come back to that at some other time, because I love to talk about them, because you seem to have a more in-depth, great perspective on them. Dr. King and the Alphas. When I observe Alpha, you know, it's not all Alphas, but just in general, you guys carry yourself with a certain degree of dignity and class and that kind of thing. Do you think a lot of that has to do with the foundation that people like Dr. King laid for you guys to look at and emulate in terms of how you approach academics and everything?
Well, you have to keep in mind with Alphas, Alpha started in 1906. Alphas were at the forefront of the Niagara movement, and the Niagara movement preceded many others. Dr. King...
Niagara movement, of course, the NAACP came out of that, right?
Correct. The NAACP came out of that. Alpha Phi Alpha was at the forefront of that, being college-trained men who did not feel that it was something beneath them to lend their expertise to those movements. So when Dr. King came along, quite frankly, he just fell into a long-standing tradition of Alpha Phi Alpha.
Right, I see. He's not. I got what you're saying. 'Cause
Okay.
they've been around for a minute.
They've been around for a
made
minute.
Dr. King.
Exactly right.
They set the foundation. Kind of, Lovey, give people a perspective as we are on the Alpha's cruise, dinner cruise here, on the Crown Princess yacht, 1906. The climate in America, particularly the station that African Americans may have been holding in 1906.
Okay, let me give you a small take of mine on, because I could probably talk for days. 1906 preceded some of the glory days of this country, because during that period of time you had many inventions. You had people who, quite frankly, were enjoying tremendous fruits of capitalism in this country. The Alphas at that time were 7 young men who were matriculating at Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. Now, I've had occasion to go to Ithaca, New York. It is a rural town in northern New York, cold.
Cornell.
Okay? And Cornell is a
Very
white
well
campus.
respected. Is that an Ivy League?
It's an Ivy League campus. It's predominantly white. So you had some of our more, I won't say elite, but more talented individuals who were black that could even get into the university. When you look at the profiles of what we call the 7 jewels, who are the founders of Alpha Phi Alpha, what they found was that even in the midst of all of this opportunity, ability to learn at the forefront of academia, something was lacking. And what was lacking was a camaraderie that they could develop amongst each others. So Alpha Phi Alpha was kind of born out of that spirit. It was not necessarily thrust upon them, because anyone who went to Cornell University earned the right to be there academically, because Cornell is more similar to, like you might say, going to Harvard or Yale. You just don't show up. You have to demonstrate some academic proficiency, and when you're there, instructors are going to challenge you on that. And if you get to stay there, you got to prove yourself every day.
That's right, Cornell.
So what happened with these 7 young brothers is that they saw that there was a need for them to come together to have some kind of, I guess, relaxation, because if you've been to college, you know that it's not all fun and games.
I went to black colleges, though, so I don't know that. I don't know that world of being segregated like that. But I can imagine what that was like
on a predominantly white campus
in 1906.
In 1906, in the dead of winter.
And we just, what was that? Still in Reconstruction period? We're just coming out of Reconstruction.
We were just coming out of Reconstruction formally, but
Jim Crow was afoot.
Jim
Even
Crow
in the North.
Jim Crow was in the North. Segregation was in the South, so to speak. The North, I guess the adage was in the North, if you were black, you get as big as you could be amongst your own folks.
I got
in
you.
the South, forget it. We don't want you to be big at all amongst your people and everybody else. Okay?
This guy love it.
So
I hope you guys get this education here from a scholar. Go ahead, Lovie.
So collegiately, I think when you look at the fraternity, the whole notion of fraternity at the collegiate level, with respect to African Americans, was novel. I mean, because really most of your black colleges at that time were your agricultural land grant colleges, where they wanted to turn out people who could be better farmers.
That's right.
Not necessarily academicians. When we look at the profiles of the 7 jewels, we find that we had people who were studying to be physicians in medicine, people who were studying to be engineers, people who were studying to be mathematicians. This was a different frontier, if you will, for black academia.
Now, the concept of them being the first to start a fraternity and get it rolling and let it come into what it became, and then other fraternities and sororities were able to look at the Alphas as a model. Did you guys, in your history, show where you actually assisted some other ones in getting their chapter started?
Well, the formal history does not speak to us lending assistance to other chapters. I think what probably happened was that on other campuses, given their particular theme or culture, they began to see that it was possible for educated blacks to get together for a common purpose.
Gotcha. To summarize tonight, people starting to get off the cruise ship. We're still here working it. Tell us about downstairs, what that was like, partaking that great meal, just see all these lovely people who come out to just have fun here with the members of Alpha Phi fraternity.
Downstairs it was a wonderful event. It's always wonderful to get out and break bread with persons of like minds.
And we're on a cruise ship. If you joined us late, go ahead.
Yeah, and what I enjoyed is coming out and breaking bread with some people that I don't get to see all the time. One thing about retirement is that your population does shrink, and the opportunity to get out and renew acquaintances, share experiences, and sometimes even learn things is wonderful. And the older I get, the more I see it's necessary to seize upon it.
You still get a chance to go out and golf, though, right?
Oh yeah, you got to make. Yeah, I am a golfer.
Is Johnny Street golfing with you? I talked to him, Councilman Street, the other day. He said, "Lee, I got to do some golfing this Sunday."
Exactly right.
I was trying to get him for an interview Sunday. He said, "Got to go golfing."
Well, some of us retirees, we got to have some hobbies, and that's one of them.
Okay. What's this big? I mean, I've gone out to the courts maybe 3 times, golf courts, and on business, and tore up the ground and all that. But what's this big fascination? You guys seem to become almost addicted to. You're addicted to.
Well, let's put it this way: if you were an athlete at one time, and you're past your prime, golf is one of the few things you can still go out there and do reasonably well. Okay, so it is a way to, and it's also relaxing as long as you don't take yourself too serious.
Right.
And it's a way to socialize as well. You get to meet some guys that you're friends with, and for about 3 or 4 hours, hey, it's just you and nature.
Right.
And that's very relaxing.
I still get to go and swim, even though I'm an old athlete. I'm lucky that I can get in that soft water and swim a half a mile whenever I and get that relaxation as well. I never really got into golfing, but I can appreciate people like Lovie who are golfers and keeping us on tap. Lovie, I don't know how often I'm gonna get a chance to interview you, but I want to say that I've known you over 25 years. You have been a role model for myself and for many of us here in Southwest Florida, particularly African American professionals. You fought the good fight when you were dealing with the Lee County government. I will never forget that. And the lack of opportunities there for minorities, you were in the forefront of that. And then you went on as an educator and continued to educate our up-and-coming population. So thank you for being a vanguard in that way.
I appreciate those kind words, Lee. My dad raised me the right way, and being a part of fraternities, being a part of people who wanted to progress and do something better for themselves rubs off. And with that, I've always been taught that if you can share something good with somebody to help them, you have an obligation to do that.
Amen. That's 1906. Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity was founded. And here we are over, I think, 122 years later, 112?
106 from... Got to do the math there.
I think it's 12.
112 years.
Yeah.
December 4th,
he went to college. Years. I didn't.
No, yes, you did. You went to a fine school in Atlanta.
Doing that complicated math.
Well, I went to Dillard.
Yeah.
Put a plug in for them.
Okay, let's do this. Let me make sure I plug. I went to undergrad. I went to Talladega College, historical black college in Alabama, and I went to grad school at what you guys know as Clark Atlanta University on the AU Center campus, right there next to Morehouse. And so I had an all-black college experience, and I turned out okay. Yes. I think you started off in historical black college, and then you went to a predominantly white school, right?
That's correct. I finished from Dillard University, which is a historical black college in New Orleans, and I got my graduate degree from University of South Florida in Tampa.
Right, good mix to do.
Very good
historical
mix.
Black, then do that.
Very good mix. I must say my years at the historical black college in many ways were more enriching than my years at the non-historical Black
You
College.
were made an Alpha at
Dillard University.
At Dillard. And then, of course, I was made a member of Phi Beta Sigma at Talladega College back in like 1980. And it seemed like it was just yesterday, but boy, the years have stacked up. How many years have you been an Alpha
I
now?
preceded it. I went fall of 1972.
Okay. You got a couple of years
So
on.
I'm moving up on that 50. I haven't quite got there yet, but I'm close.
All right, man. Do y'all have some name for that when you?
When you get the 50 mark, they give you a special pen.
All right. Get it, man, a watch. Can you get it, brother? Alpha watch, a gold Rolex.
No, we're good. I'm a life member.
You're a good man. It's over, folk. We got to get off this Prince's cruise, and Leapers Live covered the Alpha's cruise in Raven style, and we're going to certainly be with you guys during ML King weekend. Do you have a specific? Do you remember specific dates or some things you're doing? I know you got a breakfast and.
Yeah, there's a breakfast for that the Alpha sponsor each
That's that
MLK
Monday
holiday.
morning, right?
That's that
On
morning,
King
Monday
Day?
morning. Yes.
Right, and then of course you guys will be in the front on the
They'll be in the front on the march.
On the march, not a parade, people. It's a march.
Right.
What's his name? Your frat brother always tells me.
Reginald Billers.
Reginald Billers from Birmingham, Alabama. We'll see you.
Thank you.